The study of Latin at St. Michael Academy in Petoskey, Michigan has this goal in mind, reading competency in classical Latin. Now, once you've submitted to the discipline of learning the language, then you're free to, if you please, pick up Virgil and read him in his original tongue, or read St. Augustine in his original Latin, or read the Vulgate translation of the Bible, all that. So there's a freedom that goes along with the rigorous study of the language. Now, our students too, if they would like to study Latin in college, they'll be well prepared for that as well. Now, we approach the study of Latin with that in mind, again, in two ways, kind of, or there's two things that students need to understand to be competent in Latin, and they are morphology and syntax. So those are big words, but here's what they mean. Morphology, that refers to how words change their shape. So Latin, unlike English, is a highly inflected language, and what that means is that most of the meaning in a given Latin sentence is going to be conveyed by the endings of the words. The endings of the words are going to change. Endings of nouns, verbs, adjectives, pronouns, all these things. And the analogy in English would be him versus he, or she versus her, or I versus me. We see some inflection in our English pronouns, but by and large, English is not a very inflected language, where Latin is. And so morphology is the study of how the words change their shape. And then syntax, that other word. So syntax can refer to two things, and it means arrangement in Greek. Syntax means arrangement. Now, on the one hand, you can talk about the syntax of a sentence as a whole. So how is a sentence arranged? Is it simple, compound, complex? What are the subordinate clauses? Right? What's the word order look like? You can talk about syntax in that sense, but you can also talk about the syntax of a given individual word. And so once you've figured out what a word is, so is it a noun, is it a verb, is it a pronoun, adjective, and then in Latin there's that additional morphological step. So if it's a noun, what case is the noun in? What's its gender? All information that's going to be conveyed by the endings of the words. Once you've figured out what a word is, then can you look at it within the sentence, within a given sentence, and describe what it's doing? How is it functioning within that sentence? That's syntax as well. And so there's really two skills that we look for in our Latin students, and it's proficiency with morphology and syntax. And morphology is by and large memorization. And then syntax is this critical thinking, problem solving kind of aspect that is really like piecing a puzzle together, or working out a math equation. So if I give a student a sentence in Latin, what I'm looking for them to be able to do is every word go through and say, what is this word, morphology, and what's it doing, and then how does the whole sentence fit together as a whole. And that's about it. And that's what you do when you read Latin, and it just gets more sophisticated and difficult the further you take it. But those are the basic skills, and you can probably see that those are easily transferable to other, not only academic subjects, but other areas of life. So the students are getting very adept with their English grammar, because you have to know English grammar very well to study Latin and to talk about Latin. And they're also developing the skills you need to look at language very closely and realize that words have meanings, and sometimes shades of meaning can be very, very nuanced and subtle. And so they're looking at language very closely, and then using critical thinking skills to piece together a difficult Latin sentence that stands there opaque to them until they do that figuring out. So those are very good things. Now, in Latin 1, the students are going to be by and large concerned with learning the morphology. So learning the rules of how words change their shape in Latin. And that's quite a lot of work and a lot of memorization, and that is more rote memorization than what they'll get to in Latin 2. So Latin 2, we turn to syntax especially complex sentences and subordinate clauses and things like that. And it's in Latin 2 where you really put everything you learned in Latin 1, put all your knowledge about morphology, to use, and the students have a very difficult time with Latin too if they don't have a good grasp of how the words change their shape, because again, it's all, what is this word doing? What is this word, right? ID, and then what is this word doing? Describe syntax. And that's what we do, and it's rewarding and worth doing for its own sake. And there are numbers you can throw around about benefits of studying Latin, which we don't have time to go into here, but it's very much worth doing, and having submitted to the discipline, as I said, the students are free then to go explore some of the greatest minds in the Western tradition in their original language, and that is very much worth doing. So I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching. God bless.